Today we're going to talk about a security group, people that you can depend on that'll come together, in case of some kind of emergency. Not necessarily even SHTF, but this would definitely apply to a grid down situation as well. One of the things that has happened in the U.S. is that people are in transition. They're looking for new jobs, they're moving into different areas, different states. Long gone is the small town which has all the people there that you've always known. They're still around here and there, but most of the time there are people moving in and out, buying property. You have new people coming into the area. We lived in a small town like that for a number of years, and everyone knew each other. There were still people that were coming into the area, but the main core were people that just grew up there, from elementary school all the way up until graduating college sometimes, and coming back to that area. But in most cities, you don't have that luxury. And one of the things about it is you lose contact with people. There's no cohesion in the community. Recently I was watching a video by Tyrannosaurus Rex, or Rex Reviews, and I'll have it linked right here, his channel. I love Rex's videos. He does a great job, former military veteran, teaches a lot of sniper tactics, long-range tactics. In western South Dakota, they had a small town that actually was visited by not just protesters, but rioters and looters that were really planning to do some things in that town. Because it was a small town, they were able to gather a lot. In fact, hundreds of people came out to protect their small town from any kind of damage and looting. The protests went on, but because of the security presence that was in that town, to supplement the police, they were able to stop any kind of issue. That really got me to thinking about what do we do in the areas we live in. Now, I live in Greenville, South Carolina. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the country. A lot of people are moving in here from all over. And so a lot of times we don't have those connections. So how do you build those connections? How do you secure your area? How do you keep your area safe? Because guys, honestly, you're gonna need a community. Now, one big thing that actually I've forgotten about is your neighborhood watch, your Crime Stoppers, those organizations that are organized to be able to make sure and document certain things that are going on in your area. It's really funny because for me, I've always thought of that as little old ladies looking out their window with binoculars and, watching people as they walk down their street. But it can be a lot more important than that. It can be a really good tool to use. I got on the Crime Stoppers website because that's what our area typically uses more. When you look at all the reported crimes that are going on in a certain area, it will wake you up. A lot of times we don't hear about the small thefts and robberies that go on. People's cars being broken into, industrial areas that are being broken into. Arrests are made sometimes and sometimes not. And so having an idea of what's really going on in your area is smart. I know Facebook has a number of different pages as well. A lot of times local pages where people report things. And so knowing what's going on around your area, guys, that is vital. If nothing else, get involved in some kind of community watch around your area, whether it's one you develop or one that you plug into that's national but has local chapters. And so for us, Crime Stoppers is a big one. Neighborhood Watch is also another one to really watch out for. And there's a lot of resources there, guys, that can somewhat keep your community safe, but you need to go a step farther. We've seen a lot of civil unrest here in the U.S., and with the defund the police movement, which is really dangerous for a lot of communities, especially urban areas where it seems to be the strongest. Guys, you've got to have some kind of network. You've got to have groups together to supplement. We all know there are bad apples in the police department, and they need to be called out, there's no doubt. But there's also a lot of really great law enforcement people out there. I know a lot of them personally on every level, and everyone that I know, they're just really good people, and they have a heart for, serving the community, helping out, making sure that we stay safe. We can't have police on every corner regardless, and neither do we want that. Because guys, again, self-defense is basically your responsibility, and it's what the Second Amendment is all about, whether locally or nationally. But one of the big problems right now is that a lot of law enforcement is getting hamstrung. They're not able to do the things necessary to subdue people. One of the problems is, and we've seen it, is a lot of resistance, and because of that, we're seeing issues. But let's step back and look at some areas where you can come in. And number one, the big important thing is to know your neighbors. Know the people around you, get to know them, get their phone numbers, be able to call them. Set up some kind of community watch if it's just down your street. and you're able to know what's going on in the area. Had a guy stop by, he was former law enforcement, he's now with security with the hospital. Got in touch with me, came by and said, hey, we've had a couple of people messing around our houses lately trying to break into cars. He probably lives about 200 yards from my house. And so it was good to know and great for him to come by and share that with me. But you need to have some kind of network to be able to build off of that. And I think that's where your neighborhood watch really comes in handy. Now guys, outside of knowing your neighbors and setting up some kind of community watch, it's really good to have some people that you can call on if something happens. And you find that from groups that you're typically already involved in. Maybe they have common interest, and maybe it's just people that you feel will have your back in a bad situation. For me, I'm on the security team at church. They're all local to this area. If I ever have a situation, I feel like I could call a number of those guys to help out in a situation. And so having that resource is important. Also, if you go shooting a lot, having a gun club, knowing people that are in your area and being able to call on them, making those friendships where you feel like that you can call them and they'll have your back, or if they call you, you'll have their back. Guys, church groups are a really good source. Those are people that you worship with, you see on a regular basis, you get to know those people, and you have a really common thread together. And that's a great resource for having and building a security team. Guys, if you're a vet and you have a lot of friends in the area that are vets, you have a lot in common already. And plus you have some skills. And so it's really good to be able to get those people together. As things escalate, you're going to have more people open to building a security team. And with that being said, militias, guys, national media has really demonized militias, but it's part of what the U.S. was founded on. People that are ready, Minutemen that are ready to go. Now you need to make sure that you vet that certain group, because you don't want to get yourself in a group that maybe has some outside kind of ideas that are contrary to what you believe in. I know in Virginia, a lot of those counties with all the gun control that was talked about did reinstate a lot of militias. And a lot of this was led by law enforcement. And so guys, law enforcement done right, they can use you as an ally. And you need to make sure though that you're on the right page, doing the right things. Of course, we already talked about small towns, and if you live in a small town, you need to build that community. You have those people around, they see what's going on. More and more towns are being targeted for not just the demonstrations. And again, guys, demonstrations are fine, but it's the aftermath that comes with the violence and the looting. Those are the areas where we need to be able to stand point. And law enforcement, again, is having their hands tied. So it's really important, guys, that you protect your community. The stores that you visit, you want to protect those stores. I know that the Target that was in Minnesota and in Minneapolis, they said they're not going to rebuild. You want these areas that you frequent to be able to continue to do business. And so protecting those businesses, you have an interest in protecting them. And with that being said, even prepper groups. Guys, if you form some kind of prepper group, that can make a great security team. You're already showing that you have a lot in common, with being prepared. You have like-mindedness. You can come together as a security team and to be able to protect. Guys, get to know your law enforcement and talk to them about what you can do, what they are comfortable with. It's good to be able to have an ally with law enforcement. I just spent the weekend with a good friend of mine who is a sheriff of a county right above us, and they were doing some training with night vision, so I went up and I hung out with a lot of those guys. And I'm going to tell you what, man, these guys are solid Second Amendment supporters, dedicated to the Constitution and to protecting your rights. And so it's really good to get to know these law enforcement officers, and that way they'll know they can count on you. And two, guys, encourage those guys, because they need it right now. Morale is really low with law enforcement. And guys, we need law enforcement. Whether it's the Lions Club, Rotary Club, whatever you're involved in. You could even be in a business type association. Get to know those people. If it comes up, it may be contacts that you can make to be able to form some kind of security team. The problem is a lot of times people are from a lot of different areas, even in a county. And so you really want to form those associations with people that are somewhat close to your local area, that have an interest in protecting the same thing you have an interest in. Guys, families and friends, that's a very important resource for you to tap into. Families love each other. Even if they have their differences, they're willing to stand together and they're willing to protect what they have. Where we live, my parents are next door. My son is 2 houses over with a couple of his roommates, and we have a great security team that's already built in right here, plus a lot of their friends. And so find the resources that you have. Again, friends, Those are the guys that you like to spend time with anyway, and make really solid connections. Talk to them about security, and especially if they're already firearm owners or they just want to protect their community. Now, on a side note, one of the things about joining into any group is to make sure that everyone's solid. If you have someone that you don't really trust, you don't know that they're going to make the right decisions. Guys, if you're associated with them, that can be legal consequences later on down the road. So you want to make sure that you have people with you that are really wanting a defensive security type system and not going out and doing something that you're going to regret, that you don't want to be a part of, because you don't want to be associated with those people. So make sure that it's people that you can trust and people that have a good head on their shoulders, that will make wise decisions, that will stay within the law. That's what we're about. We're about defense, we're about the law, we're about the Constitution, we're about rule of law. And it's really important to have people that are on board with that. So guys, here at the beginning of 2020, it's been a very interesting year, and things could get better and things could actually get worse. And so we need to be ready to protect our communities, that'll protect our families, protect our businesses, and keep our way of life going. This is a very important time in our nation to be able to stand for the right things. Again, avoid those with hot tempers, that are a little bit on the edge of the law, that are a little bit trigger happy. You don't want to be associated with those people. But you do want to be associated with people that are willing to stand and that are willing to have your back. So putting together a security group, to me, is vital at this point. And being able to have people that you can call on, because it seems like these mobs can pop up at any time. And guys, if we have another crisis, it can happen in a heartbeat. And so you need to have those people ready to go that you can call on. Guys, what we are Minutemen. That's what our country was founded on from the beginning, and nothing's really changed. There are always threats out there. No matter how much society puts on this veneer of civility, there's always that criminal element. There's always those people who mean to do harm. And we've got to be ready to stand up against it. So guys, if you're serious about prepping and survival, check out Survival Dispatch Insider. It is the most credible resource on the web, using a lot of the top names in the survival prepping world. We upload one video there that's exclusive to the Insider every week. It's well worth checking out. I have a link down below in the description. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. Need to go ahead and make those commitments to people. Resources on the web, and you can find those people, because right now, at the beginning of 2020, we have had a really interesting freaking year. Long live the Republic.